So welcome to this session of GPT Dreaming. I'm delighted to say we have a panel of AI experts who all are consultants. They've all been around the Salesforce ecosystem a number of years. They're all thinking about how AI applies to not just their clients, but also to their own businesses. And I'm delighted. It's a panel session, so my job is to get them started and then get out of their way, because I think you really want to hear from them. So first up, we have Shannon Gregg, PhD. Shannon is the president of Cloud Adoption Solutions. She's an author, written several books, and she's also the organizer of Life Sciences Dreaming. The first event was down last year. It's been a series of webinars, but there's also an event planned for the Midwest in, I think, August. So look out for that, for Life Sciences Dreaming. And also she's a professor at Point Park University. So Tom is the Salesforce practice lead at Crow. Now, you've probably not heard of Crow if you're in the Salesforce world, because they're a large audit firm, but they got into the Salesforce world by acquiring Spark Orange, where Tom was the practice lead. He's an MVP. He's been around Salesforce clearly a number of years. And the other thing you should know about him is that he's got a YouTube video that which was to do with Salesforce admins. It was the Salesforce admin YouTube channel. And it was about ChatGPT, and it's had 69,000 views. So amazing. So Trevor Robinson is the next guy up on stage. Trevor's been around the consulting business for about 25 years. In fact, I think he and I were both at Accenture at the same time. I was in the UK and he was in the US. Worked in a number of consulting firms over the years, all around Salesforce. Currently with App Associates. App Associates, again, you may not have heard of them, but they've got themselves into the Salesforce ecosystem by acquiring a couple of companies. One is Forcivity and the other was Ethos. So again, a number of the consulting firms who are probably late to the game have now decided that they recognize the Salesforce ecosystem is vibrant, and that's why they've been acquiring companies. And then finally, Pallavi Agrawal. She's, again, another woman founder of a Salesforce consulting firm. Great to see that alongside Shannon. And her consulting firm's Canda. She won the Gold Hoodie at, I think it's Washington, D.C. in 23, which is fantastic to see that. I thought actually you were contracted to wear your Gold Hoodie at all times, but I see you're not wearing it today. So very much someone, again, you see in the Salesforce ecosystem all the time. I've seen a lot of research that says that the numbers were 97% of leaders said the urgency for AI is increased, but only 14% say they're ready. So it feels like most organizations seem to be sitting on their hands. So why is that? Is that security, data quality? They just can't make a decision? What are you seeing with your clients?
It's an interesting one, because I've actually been stating it another way. AI is the #1 priority for CEOs, but also the #1 fear of CISOs. And so I think it's a combination of that, right? Trust, security, data privacy. I think a bigger issue is there's so much noise in the space right now that people don't understand what's real, what's not real, what's ready for investment. And I think organizations just simply can't afford to get it right. So another part is I'm not sure everyone's fully sure where to start. And so we're doing a lot of conversations right now with people around readiness, about looking at their organization and talking about where it makes sense to make your first real big steps and investments into AI, what fits into your platform strategy, what fits into the needs of your people and your customers. And I think most people right now, they see big flashy announcements, but not what does it mean for me and my business?
Thanks, Tom. I think that was echoed by the keynote we had on Monday from Valer Afshar, in terms of Salesforce is making lots of announcements. But if you look at the overall penetration into the number of customers who are genuinely leaning into this, it's relatively small at the moment. But I think he made the comment, which was 2023 was the year of experimentation, 2024 was the year of adoption. So I think we'll see it changing. So Shannon, obviously you spend a lot of time in the life sciences industry, who are typically normally slow adopters to technology. But is that typical in AI, or is that different with AI?
It's interesting because we now see AI becoming what we all thought Salesforce was a decade ago, which was shadow IT. So in the life sciences, even in the late 2000s, the FDA was so heavily regulating the way that things could be presented electronically based on, was it psychometrically valid and is it tested? And notoriously, it's challenging to go against the status quo because once the FDA or, other regulatory agencies, EMEA, have approved it, then everybody's ready to use it, but nobody wants to be the first to do it when there's so much money and research on the line. So what we saw last year is a lot of people were sort of rolling it out in really sensitive and secretive ways. And I think that's something you and I, Ian, have talked about many times, which is let's just put it out here to the forefront and say we know we're using it. Are you using it for content marketing, or are you going all the way to trying to develop digital twins for clinical research? And so we're now starting to see these things come to light where we recognize there's going to be regulation. And I echo Tom, where do we start? Where is it accepted? Where is it approved? And where do we get against those regulations without getting in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, life sciences is at one end you've got AI and they're still using fax machines.
So true. So true. The FDA says fax machines are okay.
So Pallavi, you spend time with clients of all different sizes. Is it just big organizations? Is it small ones? What are you seeing in terms of that level of adoption?
So we're kind of seeing it across the board, right? We work with SMBs to enterprise level customers, and what we're seeing is just the level and the resources that they're putting around AI and the initiatives and the strategy planning based on the size of our clients, right? Enterprise clients tend to have more resources, team members, finances, budgets, all of that. So they're putting together full-on teams and doing a lot of strategic planning that way, figuring out ways that they can pick the big rocks in their organization that are causing the pain points where it's a lot more manual, and figuring out how can we use this as a pilot to leverage AI and really test it out before we do organization-wide. And in SMB space, what we're seeing is they're dipping their toes in slowly because their bandwidths are limited, their resources overall are limited, but they are starting to explore it, right? It might not be at the same grandiose level as the enterprise where they're doing full-on strategy planning of what does our org look like? How are we going to make some changes, not just from a IT stack perspective, but business processes and all of that. Whereas our SMB customers, they're looking at, I have this one function, how can I leverage different AI tools to help expedite those functions for me?
So Trevor, let's think about trust and security. I think Salesforce has been putting out quite a lot of marketing material that talks about, and actually marketing about a lot of content about the importance of trust, which I'm not sure whether that's scaring people into inaction or actually whether it's driving people towards action. So what are you seeing out there?
So trust and security has always been at the foundation of business innovation. It's as we continue to evolve into systems, and it's always been there for Salesforce. Now with AI, this is the next evolution, and with it comes, new architecture, new positioning, and new branding. For those that have embraced trust and security as a discipline in their innovation, AI is, the next level of maturity that they're going to move, and strive for, offering, new opportunities for their customers, their agents, and their partners. For organizations that have struggled with content and data practices, much like the MDM days, it sounds like an expensive gamble, to what might seem right now, because AI is new, some adolescent use cases. So you've got a mixed spectrum out there, depending on how mature, an organization has been, because the AI itself is only going to be as useful or credible as the data that it's fed. So depending on where you fall on that spectrum, it might seem, okay, yes, we can go up forward, and this is, actually something that's going to happen. We can drive for it, and we can see the use cases and adopt it. Others, wow, we've still got a lot of work to do in order to even enable that, or even think that, we can take advantage of those use cases. So from it scaring clients or stalling them, mixed bag. And I think that, this year, 2024, much like we heard in the keynote, this is the, sort of year of really getting it out there and trying how we're going to adopt it and press forward in the market.
Yeah, and we're seeing that something else though, and I think we talked about in the keynote, which is whilst corporations may be sitting on their hands, they're going, well, the CISO says we can't do things. And it almost feels like the security wonks have now gone, hey, this is my time to shine. I can actually get involved and stop stuff. But at the same time, we've got employees going, yeah, I'm actually, I can see the benefits. I'm just going to get on and do this anyway, even if it may be slightly risky in terms of my role or my employment. So I think at some point we've got to try and balance this out, which is we've got to get to a situation where employees can feel comfortable that they can start using it, and they'll have some at least air cover from somewhere in their corporation, even if they're not, even if AI is not being rolled out across the entire corporation.
Yeah, and even there you have, the differences. Okay, is it, part of the business solutions that we're working on, or is it an enabler of, the developers in the community there? So on the enablement of developers, is it, okay, can I use this? Is it trusted, or is there a Trojan horse in there that's going to cause some issue? And then on the business side of it, you're like, okay, is there actual value here in the investment that I plan on making? Because, I'm not that mature in my data strategy in order to support this yet. And what is it going to take me in order to get to realizing those use cases?
One of the things that I think is really interesting, and Trevor, I'm glad that you brought this up, is, thinking about how do we put guardrails around this so that folks inside of organizations know how they can or cannot dive into this. And, we all laugh when we see the safe harbor slide when we're at a Salesforce event. It feels funny to us because we've seen it so many times, but we may have people who are in small silos in the organization working from home, not understanding that they're feeding a machine when some of the information that they're giving may be secret, and maybe IP, it may be regulated, it may be things that they don't even know how to codify, they don't know how to hide. And I think we're in this sort of no man's land. It feels like, let's just run west and find out where there's gold, without understanding, you definitely do not want to get dysentery on the Oregon Trail.
And I think in that keynote, there was a lot of focus on what that trust and security layer is, and what are the sort of gates that are going to help you, prevent, some of that data from escaping or being tainted or, otherwise compromised. So I think further understanding how that data travels, as it's prompted, as it's moving through the organization, whether it's through, internal model or an external model, and then it's cleansed in that good water, comes out the other end and you can drink it. So I think, continuing to understand that model is going to help a lot of folks understand, is this something that we can adopt without, causing issue to, customers, partners, and our own employees.
But it feels like a lot of the core disciplines, which maybe we're not doing very well, are suddenly coming back to bite us. So data governance, decent understanding of business processes, architecture, all of those things which we ought to be good at, documentation, we ought to be good at. Without that, we can't move forward. So it feels like those people who actually are running well-run organizations, well-managed orgs, are actually in a better position to take advantage of this and accelerate.
Absolutely.
So let me just turn this around a bit. We've talked a lot about clients, but let's talk about you as consulting firms. So how are you using AI to either improve the quality of your outputs, accelerate the work that you're doing, or certainly your teams are doing?
I think one thing that Crow's done is develop our own internal AI tool, so we can specifically worry about the question of data privacy. We have a tool called CrowMind, and so everyone here is encouraged to use that before going to external models. And so that's our official policy. And then we're obviously looking at the tools within our vendor stack, right? When we look at whether that be Salesforce or Microsoft, Elements as it would be, and where can we be finding advantages? Because I think we shouldn't be spending hours and hours doing a first draft of user stories anymore. There's no reason to. And so I think it's looking across our business and identifying where can we focus our people, which is our most constrained resource, on high value tasks that are adding, value to our clients versus doing work that we can, offload to generative AI or causal AI for that matter.
Yeah, for us, it's it's at the it's the focus to the value of the customer and leveraging AI to enable development operations architectures to streamline the discovery, the development, test, the code, migration activities, increasing speed to market and quality. Those things, of course, revenue wins over all. So much like we develop solutions for our clients, the solutions that we should be developing for ourselves don't always get prioritized. So the focus is on the value to the customers for us.
That's pretty funny. It's like a carpenter that has a house that needs a ton of repairs.
Yeah.
So there was a recent article that said, a Forbes article that said actually the consulting firms actually is probably going to be quite heavily disrupted. You think about you're writing proposals, you're doing discovery, you're doing analysis. All of those can be enhanced by AI. So it's an area where there is a huge opportunity to accelerate. And again, every consulting firm is trying to differentiate themselves. You can't just go, I'm great at Salesforce. I'm like, yeah, okay, but there's another 4,000 people say that. So I think there's some interesting dynamics are starting to hit the consulting business.
I think the word enhanced is the right word, Ian, because I think a lot of times people are thinking AI will replace. And I've seen this conversation play out in terrible ways on Reddit and on Twitter and on LinkedIn, where people are saying, guess what? You don't need to know how to do any of this anymore because you can just ask AI and it will do it all for you. But we still need to make sure that people understand how to write a user story so they know when AI has delivered a good, valid user story, right? So while we're working on prompt engineering and we understand how to create really good prompts, we need to understand what sits underneath that. And so I think really good consultants are saying, I don't want to replace this, I want to enhance that. So I love that you use that word.
Yeah, I think it's I think everyone has this fear that AI is going to replace and make people redundant, and things. I don't think that's the case. Like if we just look at the history of technology and how it evolved, back in the day we were all doing ERP, and this thing cloud came around, and then everyone started learning cloud. It's just another side of technology that technology is moving into that we as consultants also need to stay on top of, because we are seen as the advisors to our customers. I don't think it's going to disrupt the consulting business in the sense that it's going to make the business shrink in any way. If anything, this is an opportunity for folks to learn this technology and become those advisors, because not every company has the resources, the knowledge, and the power to learn it internally either. So they are going to rely still on those consultants who are well versed in it, right? So just like when cloud came out, there were a few consulting firms who had learned the cloud technology, really invested in it, and they were the ones that were sought out in the market by customers when they were like, we need to move to cloud. We need to get away from these ERP systems and really move into this space. Same thing is happening with AI. AI is such a big realm of so many things can happen in AI. We've been using AI for years already. Now we're talking about a different level of AI. The way it's going to disrupt our business is if we need to and want to stay competitive in the market, we need to start learning this technology, kind of what Crow just mentioned, right? They're building their own AI to test it out and really learn the ins and outs. We need to become experts in it to disrupt the market even further, to then help guide the customers on how to do it the right way. And that's what consulting is all about, is that guidance, that advisory of implementing in ways that are the best efficient ways to stay competitive and sustainable in the market.
To add on to this, I think where the disruption is going to come is going to be when the expectations of the public change. And so when you think about this, I was talking to a product manager of a document generation tool and just talking about their roadmap. And I said, if your product isn't considering how I can give it a request in natural language and producing the initial draft of the merge document from that request, then whoever gets there first is going to be the document generation tool I'm going to recommend to our clients, right? The expectations for every product are going to shift to, I should be able to interact with you and your technology in a language that I'm comfortable with and a syntax that I'm comfortable with, because the technology exists for you to understand intent and take action based on that intent. And I think the same thing is going to happen in consulting, that if we're not prepared, as the public's and our clients' expectations shift of that from other vendors, they're going to expect that from their consulting agencies as well. And I don't have a great answer for how we move with that, because we are so people and process driven, other than for us to adopt tools that allow us to. But I think there is more disruption coming for us. We just can't see it yet. It's a little bit on the horizon because the expectation of our clients haven't caught up with the technology yet.
But the fact that you're using it, I mean, it's very difficult to go, yeah, we understand everything about Salesforce. Do you use it yourself? Well, no, but we've read about it. I think actually you could probably do that because Salesforce is well established, but with AI, unless you're actually using it daily internally and understanding it, it's very difficult to become an advisor in this. And I think particularly as it's moving so quickly, and I think there's also the risk, which is, oh, it's going to change next week, so let's wait till next week. I think you unless you're involved in it now, you don't actually see how it's evolving in the same way. So it's fantastic that you've got Crow Mind there. So what are other people doing in their organizations to get their teams up to speed?
For us, we're constantly just learning and encouraging our team members to play in sandboxes for these tools, because again, we are looked at as the advisors for our customers. If we don't know the technology ourselves, how can we advise them? So we're encouraging over and over for our team members to continue to stay on top of what is happening, knowing the protocols, knowing like not just from what the tools can do, but also where is the security governance going to come in, that guidance, right? What are the steps to get AI really plugged in and utilize it the right way? The security infrastructure, the rules of engagement as an organization, the monitoring around it, that it's being used the right way, the education around it as well, right? So we're putting all of that together as well as learning the tools.
We're looking on both sides of the house, right? The commercial side of the house and the delivery side of the house, the same way we all did, a handful of years ago when you looked at flow and said, what can be automated here, right? What is something that a human doesn't need to do? So, looking at the sales and marketing side to say, how can we make sure that we're using the tools that are available that we then can pass on to our customers, right? How can we help them to create an ICP using all the information that's available that they used to have to find by going to 7 different areas to put together a sort of prospect dossier? So looking at it in that way, which is then something we can pass on to our customers to say, hey, look, we know that what's going to happen with AI is it's going to make humans even more human. So the things that are frustrating about salespeople, no, they don't want to enter stuff in Salesforce, regardless of what technology comes out, right? That gets in their way. They want to get out there and retire their quota. So thinking about how do we allow the humans to be more human and find places to, inject and insert AI, even on sort of customer facing roles, not just thinking about the tech side, has been something that we're thinking about, because that translates really well for customers. And it's a quick win. And that's a really easy way to say, don't be so scared. Here's little ways that you can allow yourself to do more of the thing that you like to do in your daily life.
So one of the things that from an earlier presentation at GPT Dreaming, someone said it was about fixing those paper cuts. So it isn't necessarily the massive thing that AI is going to completely replace any of our delivery consultants, but actually it's all those little things, which is, as you said, finding that information, or someone sends you an RFP that's like, typically they send you an RFP the week before Christmas and said, can you respond the week after Christmas? That was always my world at Accenture. But again, it's 500 pages. How can we just pump that into AI and then start to go, okay, well, pull out of it, what are the key themes? Actually, well, again, just put AI on top of it so we can ask the RFP a bunch of questions. Is there a process in there which we can just pull out and get it to document the process so we understand what we're doing? So I think there's some quite innovative ways you can do this. We took the keynote from Monday and built a GPT that sits on top of it, so you can ask the keynote anything. Yeah, what are the key themes? What are the statistics? I mean, it's 20 minutes, and we're going to do the same for the whole of the GPT Dreaming. These 10, 15 sessions, we'll put it into the transcript and just turn it into one massive, great custom GPT so you can ask any questions. So I think there's some quite innovative things that you can do now with the proviso, because what does that mean in terms of security? So I think the idea, we're still getting into the world of what large language models should we be using from a security perspective. But again, there's so many things, there are so many avenues that or different strings that we can pull out that can actually make us as consultants way more effective.
I think that's actually informing our strategy as we're making recommendations and helping people determine readiness. And obviously we're all fans of Salesforce here, so I don't want to be too fanboy with this, but I look at the offerings and I say, like, conversation insights that you were just mentioning, being able to pull out the keywords, key segments of a video, tag it to records, things that don't happen often, right? We should be linking these things so everyone on our team, it's filling in all of those gaps maybe in our processes, and there's so much value in that. And you look some other places like case summaries and automated knowledge articles. Yes, knowledge articles get created, but it's always a back burner thing, despite the fact that a up-to-date knowledge base reduces demand on your customer service team, which is never an overstaffed team at any organization, and also improves customer experiences. I think it's what you said really, I think, connects with me, because that's how I'm looking at it, is how do we fill in all of those little places and fill in the gaps in our processes with these offerings. Maybe individually they're not monumental game changers, but when you look at them collectively and use your tokens well, as in the Salesforce consumption model, you can fill in a lot of gaps.
But we're talking about two different things at times. We're talking about how we actually use Salesforce and the data sitting in Salesforce. And then you've got all the other things that you do, like write a proposal. You need an image for that. You need to review some background material. You want to go and research things. So there are lots of different places where AI can play. And I think rather than it's almost lots of little helpers. It's almost like having that super bright intern who is loads of energy, but actually needs to be well directed at times. And that's what's prompting is all about.
Oh, that's funny because, there are a lot of tools out there. I mean, so Gong is a great one in being able to, if I had an intern and we were, having a meeting with a client, whether it's first or, midstream, and being able to transcript what's going on and being able to pull those key pieces out. I mean, it's a fabulous tool for it being able to do that. So now back to Shannon's point, I can now be more human in talking and providing the consultancy that, the customer or prospect deserves, full attention, rather than divided trying to, scribble something down when I can't even read my own writing. So the AI that's available now to us is extremely advantageous, when it comes to our daily activities, as consultants. And I'm very excited to where, the direction it's going. And as we continue to experience that direction in our everyday activities, the more that we can provide over to, those customers that we're trying to help and their customers, and how they can take advantage of the technology and drive it forward, because the advantages are there. And sometimes it's, just kind of a slap in the face, like, wow, I didn't know that was possible. That's cool. Let's do more of that. So the energy is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we took, just for fun, some transcripts. No, so think about the concept of Gong, but I said, well, okay, where have we got lots of transcripts, or where have we got lots of text? Oh, the lyrics for a song. So obviously a bit Swifty and the Super Bowl. I took the lyrics from Taylor Swift's Love Story, pumped it into our LMS GPT and said, write me a process map. Tell me what the process map of this song is. And it did a reasonably good job. It also went, by the way, this essentially is Romeo and Juliet. So it knew from the large language model it was Romeo and Juliet. So when I asked it to do drill downs, it went, well, I know what the Romeo and Juliet plot is. So it just maps out a multi-level process map based on Taylor Swift's song called Love Story. So it's me having fun messing around. But actually, when you apply that to, I know, here's the transcript that was in an RFP, or here's the transcript, you talk to a customer about their process. And let GPT have a first go at working out what the hell they were talking about, and then you can build on that. So I think there's quite a lot of opportunity still, provided we're not scared of the trust and security issues.
Yeah, I hope nobody died in the end of that experiment.
Well, actually, one funny thing on the same line was, if you ever know this, the song "It's the End of the World" by REM, it's just a stream of consciousness from his dreams. We gave that to GPT, and it mapped out the process. And my wife, who's the lead singer in the band, who sings that, went, "Oh, is that what it's about? Wow, I never realized." So again, making sense of a whole ton of stuff. Maybe it's not 100% right, but again, it's prepared to do the legwork of looking at all of that transcript and trying to make sense of it for you. So I think we got some. Everyone's worried about is thinking about Salesforce and the customer data, but there seem to be there are other aspects where there's a lot of unstructured data which you could probably make sense of.
I love Ian, and I hope everybody who's listening is following Ian, because you do such a good job of taking something that feels like a large, intangible, scary prospect, and you put it into terms that people understand, right? People listen to Taylor Swift songs, whether they want to or not. They're pretty pervasive, but saying, hey, look, this is how this works. And that's such a brilliant way to translate that to the humans who are sort of sitting on the fear end of this, who are saying, will my job be replaced? No, your job will be enhanced. Let me show it to you in terms that make sense. And so I think, for us and for literally everybody listening, we're so excited about this. I bet our palms are all sweating because, we know that we're on the precipice of something that's literally going to change technology, but thinking of how to roll it out to people that may be in a later majority or sort of laggards is a great way to help them translate and understand what's coming.
Yeah, I like the term enhance that we're using constantly because, Ian, going back to the question, like how are our clients adopting it? They're not looking at replacing or reducing their workforce. They're all looking at how are we enhancing, how are we creating more efficiencies? How are we helping lessen the burden on our teams and automate things where we can and support our team members to continue moving forward in an organization, right? Not with our clients, at least, I can't speak for everybody else, but the clients we're working with on all of this, no one's talking about workforce reduction. No one's talking about redundancy eliminations or any of that. They're talking about how do we support our team to do more, to help create those efficiencies, because we see that our marketing team is spending all this time writing content. What tools are out there that can help generate at least the first or second draft of that content to reduce that time frame so we can do more of what we're doing and things like that. So I think that enhance is the right word, but also like enabling, right? Enabling our teams in more efficient ways to be successful is the conversations we're having with our customers when it comes to AI adoption. But also going to your other point of like the data and the foundation, that's where, we even have we published a blog of like digital, like your roadmap readiness for AI. Like, what are the things that you need? Because some of our customers are coming to us saying, hey, we want this right now. And it's like, great, but your data is all over the place. Your systems are a bit disconnected right now. We need to lay the foundation in the right way. We need to have some governance of like, some of our clients have very sensitive data that cannot be sent out. So having those discussions around closed AI versus open AI, what is allowed, what is not allowed, where's the masking happening, where all of that, educating their team members on how to even use these tools and at what level they can use that tool. There's all these things that have to be put in place before we can just jump in. And so that's where we're simplifying it, like you said, where we're like, okay, let's talk about marketing content. Here's a tool we can use just to start seeing the power of AI in this way without putting sensitive data out there. And then it gets their mind flowing from creativeness to say, now that I know it can do this, can it also do this? Can it also do this? And that's where the conversations start involving, enhancing, and supporting.
Yeah, take us in a slightly, maybe a take on that. And I don't want to take away from the narrative at all of enhancement, but I think there's a very real thing that we're being asked to do. And Trevor, you said it best earlier, revenue drives everything. And I think when you look at leaders of organizations are very much interested in how does this accelerate revenue, deal cycles, and then also where can not workforce reductions, but where can we make our workforce more efficient to be tackling higher value tasks. And I think that's really largely up to us, right, to learn and be able to answer that question and be able to take all of this noise that's out there in the ecosystem in terms of tools and opportunities and being able to focus it on the things that are going to get AI adopted quickly inside of these organizations. And that's going to be, as much as we want to help the individual contributor, if we can help organizations with driving revenue first, then you can bring in a lot of other opportunity that helps the team. But the saying, the business of business is business, isn't going to change even with this technology.
Tom, I think you hit on such a key point that I've been thinking about lately, which is, what's the future of the SDR, for example? Because I have clients and I have partners who have put together some really cool stuff that says all of the things that we've looked at before and the things that we've needed SDRs to do manually. AI handles that so well now. And, I think there's the perfect storm of a lot of people have been able to work from home. So they are changing the way that they're handling cradle to grave sales anyway. But now that they are equipped with AI and AI can do a lot of the things that we used to need somebody to physically do, it's definitely going to change, particularly, our friends in sales, right? The way that they go out to the market and the way that they're doing things. And I think that type of innovation and drive is going to help those high revenue generators become even higher revenue generators, right? So that top 20% that brings in 80% of your revenue, that stretch is going to become even wider.
I think it's actually an interesting flip side is I would be looking to AI tools that allow me to find that top 20% and provide specific coaching tips based off of activity data or other things that tells me how do I get my 80% as effective as that top 20. And I think that's where the opportunity is. And that's where we say that is a revenue driver because your top 20% of your sales team is awesome at these 10 things. And we can look at the data and see what these other people aren't doing as well. Now let's coach them on how you can be closing that gap. So I think that's a story. If you were talking to a CEO or a CEO or a chief revenue officer, they'd say, yes, let's do that. Give me the tools for that.
So there is evidence out there. I mean, clearly Gong does that. It's you come off the back of a call and you go, the top performers do talk less, listen more. You're doing the reverse. So actually it's in your face that they're the hard numbers there. McKinsey it was Harvard Business Review did some work with McKinsey, and they found that the consultants who were using AI effectively were performing as well as some of the top performers. So there is again using AI to give people a lift, which I think is interesting. Can I turn it from the other way, which is we're all excited about AI, and you're on the panel because you're excited about AI. There's no one here going, I don't think it's ever going to work. It's never, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But there are clearly people out there who's going, well, it's all hype and I'll wait for the next thing. Do you have any clients who've said, no, we're not going to do this?
Yeah, definitely. We have clients again, it goes back to security protocols and things like that, right? So because we work across multiple industries, not every client can or is ready to implement these technologies because when it's new technology, more commercial clients or in the certain industries are more open to adopting and experimenting versus others that might be in the federal space or pseudo-federal financial industries. They have to wait till some of these technologies are tried and true before they can even use them or adopt them. So they might be experimenting with them in very limited ways, but they're not really ready to adopt them or use them. So we definitely have certain clients who are just not ready for this and they're looking to wait to see what pans out in the market.
Yeah, but so I still count experimenting as they're still doing something. So at least they're doing something. Have you got any clients who are going, no, we're not going to do anything? We've banned it. We're not going to we're not running any consulting, we're not any pilots or programs?
Yeah, we have quite a few, especially in the SMB space. We have clients who are not experimenting at all with it right now because, again, bandwidth and then their protocols, their priorities are somewhere else. They'll come back to it, even though I would counter argue that they're probably the ones who need it the most, right? So, but yeah, we definitely have clients who are not using it at all.
I think for us, we're just seeing a lot of caution around the approach. We're seeing less no and more, let's see what's real. And I think that's where we're being asked to help is identify, maybe through the noise, what are some opportunities to put that first foot forward. against the backdrop of, trust and security, data privacy, along with their business goals. So I think that's more what we're seeing. It's less of a hard no and more of a, it has to be the right yes.
Yeah, we definitely need more of the Valas out there, the evangelists, the digital evangelists going after it. I attended a session with a prospect, Dreamforce, and the session that we attended was going to solve a lot of the issues that they were having with some of their partners in content management. And the going in approach to that was, yeah, I don't know, AI, not sure. And we went into that session, and even though the session answered a ton of questions and we were able to, digest that after the fact, it's like, well, I still don't know if it's right for us. And I'm like, did we just saw how it was right for you all? And then as things, kept on getting digested, a little bit further, it was like the next couple of weeks, it's like, you know what? I think there might be something there. So there's that, initial opposition that we, are challenged with in the market, and it's our duty, as trusted guides to help break through those barriers, those apprehensions, if you will, and understand how this truly is a value to, the services or products that you provide to the market. So it's an interesting game. Love being in it, and looking forward to more of those challenging atmospheres where we need to bust through. But the more Valas we can get, the better.
Trevor is so right about saying, what drives them and how do we identify where we can come in to meet them where they are. And we plot our customers on the user adoption curve, on the diffusion of innovations curve. And if they're still using Classic, which some of them are, we're going to be really cautious about what we introduce them to. And, they're expecting us to say, proactively, here's something that you should be doing. Here's something your competitors are doing. Here's something other people in your space are doing. And where they feel really comfy is the place where we need to say, this is the place for you to try this out, right? You're doing things the hard way, and we respect that it's, the way you've always done it. And as a neuron, you want to travel the path of least resistance, but, identifying who those internal Valas are, right? Who's the champion inside of the organization. And a lot of times it's somebody in the service team, right? They're willing to listen because they don't feel like they have that monkey on their back of a quota they have to meet. And so if they take the time to stop and learn something new, it's going to get in their way. So really being thoughtful individually about where all of your clients are at and what you think they can take without overwhelming them, and that sort of show and tell process that Trevor was describing, let them see it and then think about ways that they can put it inside of the way they run their day-to-day process without making them feel so overwhelmed that they are, run to inaction.
So we had talked about, how do you, get started in this? Where does it all begin? How do I even, dip my toe into that water? What I'm seeing in the market currently right now, active with clients. Yes, there's some apprehension in there. There's some, wow, some of that stuff is really expensive, but we can see some of the benefits on the other side. But if you look at it, one of the easiest transitions is to evolving into AI is automating content and data collection, the interpretation of it, extending analytics and content management capabilities with automation. So we've seen it in service, and this isn't nothing, new. Next best action's been around for a while, but how do you enhance that, next best action, increase the, automated intelligence around that, better cues for, agents to, respond. It's evolving service, self-service capabilities within, conversational chatbots. We heard that earlier in one of the earlier sessions this week. Automating the case activities with agents, increase their value as customer advocates. Back to Shannon's content, helping people be more human as we carry on our activities. So there's right there, we have seen it in action. There's some good actions we can build off of from a service perspective and get into some of the other stuff that's coming in, sales, marketing, and commerce that, Salesforce is enabling, providing personalized actionable intelligence and getting into classifying, categorizing, and segmenting, with automation. I think there's a lot there that, we're just on the cusp, or, the clients and prospects that we're talking to are just on the cusp of, doing that next level, when that next level of evolution is AI.
Just out today is an article on Forbes called The GPT Divide. So I know it's there because I wrote it, but it was the book. But the point about I remember when I was in the UK, there was a worry about about the internet divide, which is those communities that didn't have internet were going to fall behind, and therefore it was a government push to actually make sure that people were connected. And I think I can see the same thing happening here, which is if you're not on the right side of the GPT divide, which is if you're not at least testing it out in some area, no matter and how small. There are a couple of things. One is that you may fall behind in terms of at least exploring how it's going to work for your organization. The second is that you're not being forced to put in those policies that you need to put in place, the guardrails. But I think the third one, actually, I think is almost bigger, which is if you've got really innovative staff who are probably some of the higher performers, I'd suggest, and there's no stance on GPT, they're going to start looking at other roles in other companies. And starting to go, and therefore you're going to lose some of those the people who are going to help you get to the next world. And I think if nothing else, if you're an organization who's sitting on your hands going, we shouldn't be doing this, you've got to outwardly be going, okay, how do we form a SWAT team? How do we form a team who can start exploring this? Otherwise, you're at the risk of losing top employees. I think that's whether you're a commercial customer or a consulting firm. If you're a consulting firm going, we shouldn't be using AI. Every one of those consulting firms is going to be looking at your LinkedIn profiles and going, I want to be on your team. So I think we need to be scaring our clients into action, even if it's only testing, trialing, trying to get some proof points.
I couldn't agree more. I think scaring into action, we don't need to scare people into action. You should be terrified that people are going to beat you there, right? Because with how quickly and how powerful it is, a lot of organizations are looking out for the asteroid size risk. The asteroid size risk for that